let's introduce our 5-minute speaker this evening. Henry Jensen has over 28 years of cross-industry experience. Henry is a business growth consultant known for turning costly challenges into profitable opportunities. As the founder of Grayman Media Group, Henry leads a team of specialists who help businesses optimize their people, process, and technology. The three essential pillars for scalable, sustainable business growth. Please welcome Henry Jensen.
Thank you, Ryan. It's great to see everybody here this evening. A few familiar faces in the crowd and a few other faces that I'm looking forward to meeting. So if you look on your table, there is a piece of paper. If you can grab that, everybody grab a piece of paper, right? And the first exercise that we're going to do is we're going to flip the piece of paper over and we're going to look at where you are in perspective. So in the middle of the paper, which is going to be blank, I want you to put a dot. So on the back of the paper, put a dot and put the word me, M-E. Then around that, I want you to draw a circle. When you draw the circle around the word me, then you're going to put the word family in there. And think who is in your family, your nuclear family. So who is in your nuclear family? Put the names in there or put dots to represent how many you have if you have a lot of people. Around that, draw another circle, a little bit larger. And that is going to be your extended family. Same situation where you're going to list the people that are in your extended family. Sorry about that. Who's going to be in your extended family. So that way you can get an idea of who is in your circles as you go through building out your business. Then after extended family, put in another circle for friends. Kind of list out your friends. You may need your phone for this. Business colleagues, another circle around that. Business colleagues. These could be people you work with. These could be people you're associated with. Lastly, around that, draw another big circle. Put business connections in there. Now that you have an understanding of where you are, you're in the center. All these people that are around you. This is your support network. And that's important because now you're going to take the piece of paper and flip it back over. When you flip the piece of paper back over, this is what I call the timeline exercise. Who has heard to be resilient, you have to know how to bounce back, right? Anybody heard that? In order to be resilient, you have to bounce back. Well, how do you bounce back? The only way that you can bounce back is if you know where you've been and if you've handled certain situations in the past. Now, there are some situations that are new. You haven't handled them before, but you can use experience in the past. How many people here, by show of hands, have forgotten certain things in their life, things that they learned when they were younger, and then only to relearn them at some future point? Well, this exercise helps out with that. Now, I do this exercise. I've done this with people that are older. I've done this with teenagers. I taught religious education for 17 years. So when I did this exercise with a child that's 12 years old, they're like, Mr. Jensen, I don't have much life. I didn't live a whole lot. I'm like, that's great because you do have a future. So let's do future casting. So not only can you look back in retrospect, you can use this exercise for future casting and working with your team members. So if you look at the timelines broken down, and I know it's small, I apologize. I just didn't know how many people are going to be here this evening. And I'm looking and hoping for Ryan to have 80 people in this room at one point. So that's how many I printed off. And I was very cost effective with that one piece of paper divided by 2. So you can tell I'm frugal. But when you look at it, you'll see increments of 5 years, right? 5, 10, 15, 20. And the exercise goes like this. At any point in your life, you had a significant key moment. Put a little dash and put what that key moment was. So for me, at 5 years old, I lost my brother. At 13 years old, I got my first job. 16 years old, I was running a New York deli. I needed to go to college. I needed the money. 17 years old, I enrolled in college. 21, I graduated from college, computer science economics. Now you're thinking, wow, this is a hot kid. He's going to, blow up the world. Not really. Because life does have a way of smacking down a little bit. And after I worked my way through college 60 hours a week in the deli, right? I went back to the deli and I worked for another 7 years. Another 7 years learning computers. Now, back in those days, what was a computer? It was a 286 or 386 processor. Now, some of you have to Google what that is, but it's a really slow machine. That's all I'm going to say. And I spent a lot of money on computers. And, my wife asked me, how much in your whole career have you spent on computers? And by the time I got done calculating, I was at the $20,000. And I'm like, honey, you don't want to know. I didn't tell her that number. No. So there are certain things that you will tell your wife or your spouse, but that's nothing I wanted to go through. Anyway, so after I learned that, then I started getting consulting gigs. Now, when you're a consultant and you're building a business, it's hard for your family to understand that. But this helped me understand at certain points in my life where I could go back and recoup, right? So here I am, fast forward about 30 years old, and I'm going through some pretty tough stuff, getting married, and not that that's tough, but it has challenges. And as that was going on, I look back and I was very frustrated with myself. I'm like, okay, how did I get here? Who here has asked themselves that question? How did I get here today? Like, I don't know how I got here. How did I get here? And you're like, okay, well, I need to fix these problems. How do I fix the problems? When I did this for the first time in that event, I looked back and I found out I was the happiest at 16 years old. And you're like, well, why were you the happiest at 16 years old? Well, I didn't have any debt. I had transportation. It was a 10-speed bicycle, right? I can go anywhere I wanted. Didn't have a mortgage payment. Didn't have a whole lot of other things, but I could do things. I was like, you know what? I need to get back to that. So what did I do when I was 35, 40 years old? Well, I dumped debt, right? I paid my cars off. And I got to a point at that age of my life where I could replicate why I was happy at 16. That's what this exercise does for you. Now, if you're working with your team members, what I would recommend is you sit down with them in a meeting, you put this in front of them and you explain what it is. I can help you with it. There's a QR code on the bottom, QR code for connecting with me or going to the website. And from there, we can sit down and you can teach your team members how to reflect back on what they're doing. And then from that, you can then rebuild the team. So part of what we do is we rebuild teams to make them more efficient. This is one of the exercises we do to break the ice and also to get them to understand, I used to be happy in this job. Why am I not anymore? Maybe I could get, again, happy in this job. Wow, management's showing interest in me again. So this is what this exercise does. It brings back those ideas of when they were happy, but also how to bring them back into the business. So that's all I've got today. I appreciate your time with me. Thank you very much.